mathematical concept. Okay, so in the linear algebra, the prophets explain the physical world where we live as now through the matrix concept. So how many dimensional matrix we are in now? Can you tell me how many dimensions? Three. And another one? Four. Okay, so how many axes can you see in this illustration? One, two, three, and four. So these three axes represent the space where we are live now, right? And then what about this one? Yeah, T means time. Because we are limited by the space and time, absolutely. We can explain this physical world with these four axes. So we call this kind of matrix four-dimensional matrix. Okay. So four axes and four-dimensional matrix cannot exist without the lower dimensional matrix, like the three-dimensional matrix. Okay. This three-dimensional matrix represent, as I told you, what it is. What is it? Yeah, the space. Yeah, space. So there is only space in the three-dimensional matrix. There is no time. So can you imagine what kind of being can exist only in the space without the concept of time? I will give you an example. Who's this? Yeah, Superman. I wonder if you watched the whole movie series of Superman, but when I was young, I watched the Superman 3. Can you remember Superman 3? Yeah, I'm not sure if we watched it or not. But anyway, there was an earthquake, and the girlfriend of Superman died by the earthquake. And Superman tried to rescue her from that death. And do you know what he did?
Try to go back in time.
Yeah, correctly. By what? How?
Fast around the Earth.
Yeah, he flied backward around the Earth. How many times? 7.5. 7.5. It means he flight in the speed of electron or light. So it means he reversed the time to the past. And then he could rescue a girlfriend from the earthquake. Okay? Yeah, we call this kind of being as the three-dimensional being. Yeah. So in the past, in the present, in the future, forever this being can exist. Do you feel it's so familiar to you? What kind of being in the Bible, that kind of being? Hmm? Yeah, Jesus, right. Jesus told himself about his identity, and in John chapter 8, verse 56 through 8. The Pharisees asked him, "Who you are? How can you see the Abraham, even though you are lesser than us in age?" And then at the time, Jesus replied, I am before Abraham was born, right? Yeah. So he used I am in the past. And in Hebrews, Paul manifested that Jesus always is same in the past, in the present, and forever. Because he transcends the time concept. Okay? And then we can we can understand the concept of matrix. As we talk about the four-dimensional matrix, it can exist when the three-dimensional matrix exists. Okay? And then the lowest dimensional matrix is point P. We call it what? Point P. And I'd like to give you a quiz. What? Quiz, okay? So please answer to my question. So what is the mathematical definition of point? P is its name. Yeah. But definition I need. So how can you define the concept of point in mathematics? Nobody heard about that? Yeah, I'd like to remind you, maybe in middle school or high school, I think you've learned. You learned about that. Mm. Yeah. So the point has no size, okay? No width. It is invisible. And then in geometry, the point is a kind of undefined term. It doesn't need to be defined because it is already existed to start the concept of our academic theories. So in geometry, the point is unidentified. Undefined. Okay? Term. And then as I told you, in the mathematical term, the point is invisible because it is the start, the beginning point. Okay? And then can you match to the biblical concept of the point? What is the invisible being in the Bible? Yeah, I will give you a hint. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 15, it depicts about the identity of Jesus. Jesus is the image of what? Invisible God. Yeah. Jesus is the image of invisible God. So only the Bible tells us that God is invisible being. Okay? So that kind of invisible God, the mathematics explains with the concept of point. Okay? So I could understand how we can explain God in the Bible in our mathematical field. Okay, and then let's read the John 1, 1 through 4. Are you ready? Let's read it together. Begin. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being by Him, and apart from Him, nothing came into being that has come into being. In Him was life, and the life was the light of man. Yeah, I'd like to focus on the verse 4, the last verse in this paragraph. In Him was life, and the life was the light of man. So the light is life. Okay? Light is life in this verse. Okay? How can we understand about this concept? As I learned about natural science, I learned the natural circulation. Okay? So this is the sun. Can you recognize it is sun? Yeah. Yeah, this is my ability to express. Okay? This is the sun. And sun gives us light energy. The trees receive the light energy through photosynthesis action, photosynthesis process. Okay? And then the roots of the plant observe the water to proceed this process, carbon dioxide assimilation. Okay? So CO2 comes from the stomata. You know the stomata? Yeah, in the leaves of the plant have the stomata. So they got oxygen through stomata, and then they assimilate together with the H2O. Then what's left? How can we call it? How can we call it? Carbohydrate. And then O2 left. So through their stomata, they breathe out the oxygen. Okay? Out. So why the plant proceeds this kind of two processes? If you eat the fruits of the plant, then most of them consist of carbohydrates. Do you know what it works in our body? This is the energy source for our body action, right? Yeah. So this is the structure of the carbohydrates. So this is a carbon, C, okay, C. And then what's left? H2O, water. So the color of the carbon is black, and the water is blue. So this is a kind of package wrapping up the energy in it. Okay? And if you chew the fruits, and if you digest in your stomach or in your organs, then this carbon and H2O, the water, is removed. And it goes out as a carbon dioxide again, because you breathe in the oxygen through your breathing system. Okay? So they combine together and goes out for the plant. And then the water goes out through your feet to the land, so that the plants can absorb it again. This is a kind of natural circulation process. So what is left in our body then? Yeah, only the light energy left. Okay? So this kind of process, your mitochondria in your cell generate energy. Yeah. It changes the light energy into the bioenergy so that you can use it for your action. Okay? So I could understand why the Bible tells the light is life. Why God tells us that in him there was the life and it was the light of the man. I could understand like this way. Okay? And then, as we know, the sun consists of helium. Have you heard about helium? Yeah, this is the atom. And we can analyze the structure of helium, the atom, like this. This is the nucleus of atom. We call it nucleus. Okay? Nucleus consists of two things. What is it? Proton and neutron. Proton means plus, right? Proton means plus, and electron means minus, right? So between proton and electron, there was a pulling force together. And then what about neutron? Neutron doesn't have any magnetic attributes. Yeah. Just a neutral. Okay? And then there was a unnatural thing, a weird thing happened here. How these two protons combine together? It is unnatural, anti-natural principles, right? Yeah, they combine together. And then even though these neutrons do not have any force to be combined together, they combined in the nuclear form. So the scientists call that kind of force to combine these two protons, nuclear, strong force. Without strong force to combine these protons, they push each other and they will be divided. We can call it atomic bomb. Okay? Without the force, strong force in our body cell, our body will be explored like a atomic bomb. So as a scientific term, we are working atomic bomb in potential. Without the forcing combined together the atomic nuclears in our cells. Okay? And then the force between these two neutrons, we call it nuclear weak force. Because they do not push each other, the force is weaker than this strong force. So they call it nuclear weak force. And as I told you, between this nuclear and electron, there is another force. We call it electromagnetic force. So including these three kinds of forces, there are gravity in this universe. So four these forces prevail in whole universe generally. And the scientists imagine that where these four kinds of forces come from. How do you think? They made a theory about those four, about the source of those four forces is unified field, the great unified field theory. Have you heard about it? Not yet? Yeah. They believe that, scientists believe that all these four kinds of force come from only one source. Only one source. So that they can prove all other existence of forces in this world. Okay? And then we know that the only one source of these four forces is the Creator. Okay? The Creator gave his force, gave his energy to combine the protons and neutrons in the nuclear of atoms, in all atoms, including the sun, the helium, so that it can make the light energy in the process of fusion of nuclear. Okay? Through the process of fusion of nuclear, it makes the light and energy and heat. Through that kind of light, energy, and heat, we can keep our life today. Okay? So are you grateful to God to keep your life in these scientific processes, perfect processes? Okay? And then I experienced that I discovered who God is, the Creator is, in my academic fields. And I read this promise in Jeremiah 29:13. Let's read it together. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I said, Amen. Yeah. Whenever we try to search for him, he always encounters us with our all situations, as like I met him through my academic research. Okay? So are you really want to encounter him? Then please remember this promise. Okay? Thank you.